Welcome to Out of My Mouth, the program where raw thoughts meet unfiltered conversations.
Join us as we dive into the depths of human experience, where we share stories, perspectives, and insights that just might challenge the status quo.
Get ready to laugh, cry, and ponder the world around you like never before. This is Out of My Mouth.
The views and opinions of our guest and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of New Thought Media Network, or any organization we may be affiliated with. Here at New Thought Media Network, we welcome freedom of speech and courageous conversations. There are many topics that can be difficult to navigate. Challenging the status quo and engaging in lively debate is important to expanding our understanding of one another, and life in general. Creating a peaceful world doesn't happen because no one disagrees, it happens from a willingness to understanding one another. In our programming, we strive to expand consciousness and assist people in creating remarkable lives. Your comments are welcome at info@ntmedia.org.
Good afternoon and welcome to Out of My Mouth. I'm Barbara Jean.
I'm Marg.
And I'm Cheryl.
And we are so excited to have you here today. And I believe Marg will give us our land acknowledgement.
I'm happy to, Barbara. Thank you. I'll just take a moment to breathe into this time and recognize where we are. In the spirit of reconciliation and peace, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet on these sacred lands. We thank the generations of people who have taken this land taken care of this land for thousands of years. We recognize our oneness. We realize our history. We choose to create a new reality. We are one. Miigwech.
Miigwech.
Well, it is my great opportunity to introduce our guest today. Pierre Benoit is the author of the book PTSD and Hypnosis, a bulletproof vest for the mind. He specializes in and is certified in medical hypnoanalysis and medical hypnotherapy, certified in advanced hypnotherapy, certified as an NLP master practitioner. He's certified in eye movement integration therapy and certified in impact therapy. Oh my goodness, he's gone to school for 100 years. He is an international speaker and my good friend. Welcome, Pierre Benoit.
Hello there.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. The world has changed quite a lot, and anxiety seems to be a lot higher than I've ever noticed it before. What is your experience in your work around the areas of anxiety?
Well, the world has been going faster and faster, and people are just kind of, it's like they don't have the time to kind of really digest what's happening around them and so on. So it creates a lot of stress and anxiety. So basically, if the stress is not evacuated, then it becomes anxiety. And then if the anxiety is not evacuated, then people get into panic attacks. Mm-hmm. It kind of builds from there. Mm-hmm. So, and since the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, well, for example, for PTSD, usually it's a situation that's very intense emotionally, and it will create these symptoms. But if you look at the pandemic, it was a very intense emotional period over a long time. Yeah. And now that we're kind of over it a bit, it's like, well, it's not as prevalent as it used to be. Then, it's like people are kind of coming out of their houses and stuff, and then it's like the dust settles, and then the symptoms come out. So it just kind of increases as we go along. So right now, about 95% of my practice is basically anxiety.
Wow.
And we're not talking just adults, it's like it goes from like children to adults. It's like I can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Elementary children being stressed out and anxious. It's like you never saw that before.
So sad. Yeah. Mark, you're going to say something.
Pierre, you talked about traveling, and I believe you travel for personal, pleasure. And I don't know if you do therapy in other countries or cultures, but I'm curious if you do. Are there different presentations of anxiety in different cultures, in different countries?
Not necessarily. It's pretty well the same thing. When people are anxious, it's because their minds are focused on what they don't want to see happen, basically fears, right? So it's like their radar is always kind of looking at, okay, what's going to happen next? What could happen? What could happen? How can I protect myself? But because the way the mind is made up, it believes everything that you put in, and it's always in the present. So when I'm thinking about a negative scenario in my mind, well, my subconscious mind thinks it's really happening, and it's making me react as if it's real right now.
It doesn't know the difference between what's real and what isn't.
No. For the subconscious mind, everything is real. Anything that you put in, it takes it face value.
Right.
And says yes to it.
Yeah. And that's also why we react to things in a certain way, is because it's recorded that response from a previous experience that felt real. So it becomes our reality in the moment. And part of what hypnosis does is help unravel some of that, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
It kind of changes. We help them change the perspective of situation. See, we can't change a person's history, but we can help the person change their perspective of that history, so that it doesn't affect them in the present.
Right. So it's reinterpreting it. It's retelling the story in a different way.
Exactly.
I love
that. For example, imagine this is a person having like anxiety and stuff. Okay, so this is their past, this is their future, right? So, like I say, the memories in the past are like books on a shelf, right? When I need to remember it, I just kind of go to the book, take it, use the information. But when I'm done with the information, I just kind of put it back, and it doesn't affect me in the present anymore. But some of those memories are kind of tied with like little elastic bands, right? That kind of stick to us, right?
Of a pull.
Exactly. And but we also have elastic bands that project into the future, right? Because we have plans. We want to see our grandchildren. We want to see our children grow and whatever, right? So if I have more elastic bands in the past than in the front, what happens is people have a tendency of living in the past. They're always like missing something. It's all, and they're like, oh, I wish it was like, oh, it was so much fun back then, So, and usually what happens when that happens is they become depressive, right? If there are more elastic bands to the future, but based on fears, well, the person's in the present, but it makes them react with anxiety and stress. Right. And if there's as many in the back as in the front, well, that's not better, because people will feel like they're not going anywhere.
Right.
Stuck.
Right. So what we do when we help people using hypnotherapy is we revisit the past, change the perspective to cut those elastic bands so that the person can move forward, staying in the present. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
It certainly does. I like that. I like that.
Mhm.
You know, it's so similar to what we teach in New Thought. What you think about, you bring about, and what you focus on grows and expands. So
Well, exactly.
you're focused on the past, you end up, you know, in a really painful place because the past doesn't exist.
Mhm.
And so you're powerless there.
Mhm.
So I love this. I love this conversation because I think there's a lot of people who are struggling with loneliness, which also leads to anxiety. And there's, I mean, COVID really kind of threw the world under a bus.
Hmm.
We tried to figure out what to do and how to do it.
Mhm.
Well, just to give you an example, when you're in public and somebody coughs, what do? Right away you check, right? You never used to do that before, you know. People are just cough, you know. But nowadays, people just kind of check, you know, are they close to me, or you know,
Are they wearing a mask? Or I was
yeah.
flying from Kenya back here to Toronto, and my seat got moved, and so I'm sitting beside a young gentleman. There's a seat between us, but don't I get that dry cough? And I start coughing, and I can't stop for a long time. And we're just getting ready to go, so I can't order water or anything like that. He's sitting beside me and he's got his turtleneck pulled up.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I said, I went to the hospital yesterday. I'm clear. I don't have any illness. This is just a dry throat.
Yeah.
And he grinned and went, thank you. And
Shame.
anytime I cough in public, I feel really anxious.
Mhm. Yeah. Even sneezing, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
it's
it's so true. God.
And come up with the phrase, I'm not sick, I'm not sick.
It's
Yeah.
allergies, I promise.
Well, that's a good affirmation, though, right?
Mhm.
I'm not sick.
No, I am health is a better affirmation.
Oh, that's true.
There
Yeah.
you go.
There, that's it. It's like Margaret always says, rather than say don't something, what do you say, Marg? Put it more in a positive, like do.
Well, yeah, not necessarily positive, negative, but it's like, what are you going to do as opposed to what I'm not going to do?
Right.
That's, yeah.
Yes. Good
And-
reminders. Very good
And
reminders.
that's one of the things I do with my clients. I teach them how to talk about what they want rather than what they don't want.
Mm.
Because when you say negative, like I don't want to smoke, for example,
Mhm.
well, the mind does not understand negatives.
Mhm.
So what it understands is I want to smoke.
Right.
So the words that we use are very important because they will provide, you know, create a state.
Mhm.
You know, in the same way, you know, it's like so. But people are just used to saying, "So, well, I don't want to do this," you know, or I don't want to do this anymore, or instead of, well, what do you want to do instead? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
just setting an objective with a
Yeah.
client is sometimes quite challenging because
Mhm.
people have a hard time thinking about what they really do want. It's like, I
Yeah.
want to feel good. It's like, well, what does that mean for you?
Yeah.
You know, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's the same thing for me.
Mhm.
So define good.
Mhm.
And they have a hard time saying that, you know.
Yeah, it's true. And what about the eye movement integration therapy that you do? What is that about? I don't know a lot about it.
Well, the eye movement integration is, I have to admit that I am trained in it. I don't use it much, especially not online,
Mhm.
because it's something that you do more in presence. But it's more about you know, having the eyes kind of move in certain patterns to help release some stuff. It's a good therapy. It's not as soft as hypnosis though,
Right.
because once you start, you can't stop,
Mhm.
and there's no rest for the client. So
Oh,
you need to be able to handle some major abreactions.
Okay. So the
Interesting.
hypnotherapy actually would probably produce the same results in the end, just take a little bit longer. Is that right? Or
Not necessarily longer,
okay.
just softer.
Gentler.
Yeah.
I opt for gentle. I think gentle's a good one. That's how I operate.
Yeah, my
So-
clients like that too.
Yeah.
Hypnotherapy does everybody have the ability to be hypnotized?
I believe so. Everybody of normal intelligence that can follow instructions and allow themselves to relax can go into a hypnotic state that's workable. Right? And I'm not talking like IQ or anything. It's just like no damage to the brain kind of thing when I say normal intelligence. You know, so it's, but yeah. I
What
think
if you have somebody who doesn't believe that they can be hypnotized?
well, usually they will not call me.
Okay. Or they want to test you, right?
I don't take any testy people.
Okay.
When people call in and they, you know, and they give me that type of, you know, so, well, I don't know if I believe in this, you know, well, I'll tell you the truth. I've never had anybody call me up for that. But if there would be somebody, I would not take them.
Okay.
Because I don't want to waste my time.
No, absolutely.
I only take clients that are willing to change now.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in maybes or anything.
Because it's a shift in energy, right? You're working with energy.
Yes.
And so there's got to be the right energy thought or way of thinking about what a person wants to do or not do.
Exactly. And the thing too is we have to be careful about not being not having my client unload their problems on me. I'm a tool that they're using to access their potential for success.
I like that. Yeah.
Right. So, but I'm a tool. I don't make things happen. They make things happen. I just help them, you know, get the resources that they already possess to do things.
So they've got to be open and willing to use that.
And owning their own problem too. It's like, you know, it's like they got to be that way. Sometimes, you know, it's like there's all kinds of magical kind of things around hypnosis. You know, it's like, you know, which can, you know, they even in some people marketing stuff, you know, it's like, oh, I can do this in one session and so on. It's like, yeah, some stuff you can do in one session, you know, but I've had a lot of clients coming back to me, having gone to one of those sessions, having to redo the work properly. You know? So, but it's just that I lost myself right now. What was the question again?
I think we were just talking about people who don't believe they can be hypnotized and the energy that brings. So rather not engage in that at all.
Yeah, they need to be wanting to get better.
Right.
I can't make them get better.
Right.
Yeah.
And they need to know why they're coming to you.
Well, by the time we're done with our first session, they know why they came.
Okay. So they might think they're coming for one thing and it's something else. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily something else, but they're a lot more clear on what they want.
Okay.
And the direction that they're taking.
Okay.
I think that's really helpful because I think sometimes we are a little bit clued out as to what our real next steps are or what it is that, you know, where we really want to take something. We know we have a problem. Something doesn't feel right, but we may not be clear as to what to do about it or what's next or really who am I anyway in the massive things. You know, I think a lot of people are a little confused about who they are and what their purpose is and why the devil they're here.
But and that's mostly because they have a hard time taking a step back to kind of look at the situation from a distance.
Yeah.
Because when they do that, they can kind of notice that if they do a little kind of effort over here, it'll have like a domino effect on the situation. They might have another little effort over here. But when they're stuck in the situation, it's like they can't see the whole situation. So they have a feeling that they're extinguishing fires all the time. You know?
Yeah. And something you mentioned earlier is how fast things are moving right now. So it's also slowing down and taking the time, taking a moment to even recognize where I'm at and who I am in this moment, because I don't think we do that enough. Any time for reflection or just self-care. It's just go, 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 go.
Yeah, it's performance based. You know, it's like, let's move ahead, move ahead, move ahead. What's next? What's next? And, and like I say, I tell people, you know, coming in for like a magic wand of a one session thing, I goes, listen, you know, you've put 40 years at being who you are today. Give yourself some time to make the changes. You know?
Yeah. Because it does take time to shift your perspective. We have such strongly held beliefs about things that trying to change those sometimes a bit difficult.
Again, you know, it depends. You know, most of the work with my clients that I do is done within between 6 to 10 sessions, which is quite different than you know, going to a psychologist or psychiatrist
For your lifetime.
Yeah. So what brought you to hypnosis? Did something happen for you that you went, yes, hypnosis is where I want to go? Or what was your...
I kind of tripped and fell into it.
Okay.
Well, like I mentioned before, you know, it's like I've been a child and family counselor for like 22, 25 years. But as I was always taking courses to get better and so on. And then I got into NLP classes, and that's through NLP, I met hypnosis. And then I said, oh, God, I really like this stuff, you know? So I decided to focus on hypnosis and get specialized in that. So that's kind of it's been kind of the same. I've had the same objective since I started, you know, it's like being a counselor. Just helping other people. The difference now is because clients that come to see me are actually happy to see me compared to when I was a child care counselor. It was more of a captive audience.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
So NLP stands for
neuro-linguistic
programming.
Okay. Yeah. And have you been hypnotized?
Absolutely. I just love it. Every time I go for training, you know, it's like when I go to conferences, I ask you, you know, it's like I present, but I don't present the whole weekend. So the rest of the time I go to other hypnotherapists that are teaching stuff and so on. And I have this kind of thing. As soon as they ask for a volunteer, my hand just kind of just goes up. I really like going there.
Must be a Sag.
Oh, I you know, it's a very nice, comfortable state.
Yeah. I think as Sagittarians, there's I don't know, there's a thing about just jumping in.
Yeah, you know, it's like, well, I figured if it doesn't work on me, I'm not going to use it on somebody else.
There you go. There you go. So how do you know it worked?
It's when you go for example, if I volunteer myself or something, they're volunteering, they're kind of demonstrating a technique, right? So whatever they'll do is, I remember I was sitting on a chair. They had my leg, they moved my leg up, but my leg stayed up. You know, it wouldn't come back down. You know, it's like, so there's some stuff like that. But usually when you go to hypnotherapy, it's more internal changes.
Right.
I work with feelings, right? And the way I work is through ideomotor responses. So basically, I'm going to ask you, you know, either to nod yes or shake or your head no, and that's it. I don't need content. I just get, you know, it's like a bit of the story initially to kind of set the goal and so on. But once we start working, whatever happens within the person, they tell me at the end if they choose to.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, but I'll say, you know, it's like, where did you feel that? You know, it's like, how does it feel now? You know, they say, well, it's not there anymore. I go, good, you know. And then in their lives between sessions, well, they see that there's changes in their ways that they're handling different situations or whatever.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest result right there is
Yeah.
how we deal with difficulties or whatever after the fact.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, we're at about the halfway mark. Cheryl, did you have something you wanted to?
No, I was just, we can talk about it afterwards, but I was also just looking at like, what is it? Hypnobirthing. Some of these terms, and it's just curious what that looks like. Is that before, during, after, both, and?
Let's touch that as soon as we get back. You're watching the New Thought Media Network, and this is Out of My Mouth. Our wonderful guest, Pierre Benoit, hypnotherapist extraordinaire, and we'll be back in just a moment, so don't go away. More to come.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And welcome back. And Cheryl has a little topic that she introduced just before the break. So let's talk about, what was it?
Hypnobirthing.
Yes. There's different programs out there. I was trained by a doctor who's like, delivers babies, and she studied hypnosis, and she created a program for her patients and so on, and she marketed it. And so I took the training with her, and what it is we basically help people, or we train them to kind of relax and so on. We provide them like anesthesia methods and so on so we reduce any type of medication that they get when it's like delivering the baby. We help them relax. And usually the pain is hardly anything.
Mm-hmm.
And even the delivery goes faster. So,
wow.
But I don't go into the delivery room with them.
Okay.
So it's just like my job is to kind of, I teach them. It's a 4-session type of program where I hypnotize them and do what needs to be done. And they have like a workbook and so on. And each session, they get a specific CD to listen to. And then after that, they have the whole program for themselves, and they keep on going for themselves. But we usually start at around the 32nd, 34th week.
Okay. So it's preparation.
Yes, it's
preparing them, and they're building basically their mental muscle to I suppose to steer the body in the right direction, right?
well, it's not just mental; it's actually also physical, because
Okay.
they, through the mental, they will affect
The physical.
The physical.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's very true.
So
Yeah.
that probably would work with surgeries as well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we'll have to talk about that because I've got one coming up. So we'll talk more. I'll have to book a session too. Yeah, I love that idea, because I think whenever there's something like that, you know, especially first child, although after you've had the first, you might be terrified to have the second. Hard to say, depends.
We forget, though, because we do have seconds, so we must forget.
There must be
otherwise, I don't think I would have had a second.
I don't know. My first two were really bad. My third was a piece of cake. The fourth one was cesarean, so that was easy too. But yeah, it's like there's anxiety going in, especially for that first child.
Well, yeah, because they don't know what's going to happen and so on, right?
Yeah.
Not that I know. I've never had like a child myself, but I've lived with somebody who's had a child of mine.
So the sore hand from it being squeezed or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the yelling.
But yeah, so sometimes people have a first child and it was like a very traumatic experience. And I've had clients where, as I say, well, it's like what I'm interested in is being able to kind of go through it, not feeling this way, because I've had this memory. So we need to kind of reframe.
Yeah,
that's also true. That makes sense. Yeah.
So that makes sense for surgeries as well. That, there's always a bit of anxiety as we prepare for a major surgery, and being able to find a way to relax. For me, the worst part is the MRI prior to the surgery. I can't lay in an MRI, so I might have to talk to you about that as well. Find a technique so I can get my MRI whenever it's booked. But I think there's a lot of uses that people could help themselves with. But also, I suppose things like quitting smoking or losing weight or things like that are all things that hypnosis could help.
Yeah, people, some people can make a full career just with weight management and quit smoking. But that's not my main. Like, I guess you attract what you want. Like, so I'm more of on a clinical type of basis, but I do get clients for weight management, but it represents maybe at the most 1% of my clientele.
Right.
Have you been invited into workplaces, or we were talking about giving birth and surgeries, into workplaces that are in a clinical setting to help their...
No, not at this time. I've been invited by associations to kind of give talks, or even kind of like with the Fibromyalgia Association near it's like in the West Island, Montreal. They've invited me for 8 different sessions, and I would deal with one type of topic, and I would bring them as a group hypnosis session.
So, how does that work to do a group session like that? How does that?
Basically, people just kind of sit there, close their eyes, and listen to me.
And because they have the same experience, I guess.
Yeah, everybody has their own experience with regards to that. But when however, when I do group sessions, it's very focused on a topic but
Right.
it's not an emotional topic, right? Because you don't want people, kind of freaking out while because you don't have time to kind of go around and take care of the people that kind of have these big ab reactions. So I wouldn't do any type of regression work or forgiveness therapy, but I would do like, it's like with the fibromyalgia, it's like changing their habits of eating, some pain management, because a lot of times with people with, who have chronic pain, what happens is because they have that pain, the body protects itself by getting tense.
Yes.
So, for example, when a body's relaxed, so, if I kind of press on my hand, I can bring it all the way to there before I start kind of feeling it. But if my body is tensed up, I can only bring it to there, and then I start feeling, and I feel it more than when it's down here. So there's two types of pain, right? There's the true pain, which is like the hurt, the physiological hurt, and the other pain is the perceived pain, where the mind's, so I said, oh, I got to go through my day feeling this way, and right away you start creating tension. So by being able to kind of relax your mind, relax to a point, your body, it will create more flexibility. Therefore, it will increase the comfort instead of the discomfort.
Well, that's powerful. That's really good information. I remember one time, meeting a number of people who were struggling with fibromyalgia. And one of the things I noticed over the years that I was working with these people is that a common phrase was, I'm sick and tired. And you talked earlier about the way we speak and the way we think, and the message goes into the subconscious, which then produces more of the same.
And the more you say it, the more you integrate it.
Yeah.
Because it's got this compounding effect, right?
So we can do the same thing with positive words.
Yes. But the thing is, it's not just saying the words, though.
No.
Feeling.
You need to kind of see it, feel it, and hear it, right? So when people say I'm sick and tired, they've got a whole emotional baggage in those little little sentence, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm saying, oh, I'm healthy as heck, it's like, and I don't believe it, and I don't, sometimes they say, it's like fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you got to help them out with that. It's like, I know it's a bad day or something like that, but it doesn't mean that it's a whole, it's like, it's the whole week. Sometimes, people have a tendency of focusing on what went wrong, and it takes the whole place, when in fact, it's just one event. Yeah.
And we forget that, right? We forget that. We carry those events to the next day and the next day and the next day. Something happened recently for me, and I just started saying to myself each day, this is a whole new day. It's a new day, right? And just, it's clear because it's a new day, right? And it's going to be a great day. Doesn't matter what happened yesterday or what's going to happen tomorrow, because right now it's a new day.
Exactly. It's like, new chapter of my life, or a new page, or so it's just about, it's like it's about thinking, it's like, what I want to do, what do I want to do that's great for me today? With the equipment I have. So if I'm in a wheelchair, it doesn't mean that I'm, I can be as helpless as I choose to be, or I can be as active as I choose to be.
Right. Yeah. PTSD and hypnosis. I mean, PTSD, that's something that certainly seems to be more prevalent today. Over the years, it's come forward as something that was never acknowledged before, but has always been there. And now it's really showing up in a lot of places.
Well, back in World War II, they used to call that a shell shock. But see, PTSD is not just with soldiers, or it's like, or EMTs, or it's like it could be somebody who's been in an accident. And it can even be just somebody that has been witness to the accident. So now it's more prevalent because people are the definition opened up. It's not just with one set of people,
right?
Because they, it's like sometimes people will call it burnout. It's not, and it could be, a burnout is not necessarily a bad thing. Depression is not a bad thing. It's a state of healing.
Yeah.
Right. Because the mind says, it's like, listen, you're not taking care of yourself properly right now. I'm going to take the breaker and put it to off until you can be rested enough to carry on. So depression is it's like animals. That's the way they work too, right? When they don't feel well, or where they have a broken leg or something like that, they just go somewhere, they lay down there, and they stay there until such time as they're healed.
Yeah.
Notice that with children as well. If a child gets sick, they stop moving. They just lay down and sleep for long periods of time, and then bounce back up. And it's a sign that something is out of whack, but they do stop. They don't keep going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's natural. It's and sometimes as life happens and we grow up, we kind of forget that part of it.
Yeah, it's conditioned out of us, I say.
Yeah.
Right? It's conditioned out of us. So you said something, Pierre, that I was actually thinking about asking you about before the break even. You said regression. And everything that we've spoken about and everything I see in your bio is here on this planet, on Earth, right here and right now. And so I wondered about past life regression and things like that. Do you have experience with that?
It's not my specialty. I know of it. I've done some sessions for some people, but it's not something that I actually do, because I believe that it's like if you have a problem in this life, you don't need to go in a past life to solve it. You may have to go and sometimes you may, I had a couple of times in the 20 years where I got like what we call a spontaneous past life regression. It's like you're working on a regression, and all of a sudden, the person is talking about stuff that doesn't make sense. And then you ask them, it's like, well, look down, describe your shoes. And, it's like, they're not shoes that are from this century,
Yeah.
Right. So they can have but the important thing about past lives is there's 3 theories about past life, right? The first one is the genetics, because we are the accumulation of all of our ancestors. So we have cells of all of our ancestors within us. So when that happens, is it just because one of those cells got woken up? So that's one theory.
Okay.
All right. The other one is, well, maybe there was a past life. And again, it's kind of hard to prove because nobody ever regressed to a past life where they were the king or the queen or somebody of importance enough to be kind of written in the books or the history books. Usually they're common people that lived for a while and died. And the other one is your subconscious mind is there to serve you. And it will actualize what you put in. So if you want a past life really, really bad,
you're going to
create one for you.
Right.
All right. So which one is right? It doesn't really matter. It's like when I'm working with people, is whatever that person believes, I go with it. It's my belief has nothing to do with it.
Yeah. And I like that you say that it doesn't really matter, because like you said, it's all about perspective, right? And so nothing is actually real. It's the meaning we give it.
Exactly. And the way I work, when I say, there's, one of the things I say when I do regressions, like there's a feeling within you that has everything to do with why you are here today. Allow your subconscious mind to follow that feeling to the very first time you felt that. And once you feel it's there, just nod your head to let me know. So the subconscious mind will not necessarily give you a true representation of that past situation, but it may provide you with a feeling or an image that will that corresponds to the emotion that needs to be evacuated. So that's more my way of working and understanding it, right?
That's cool.
And when I say nothing is really real, I know that that's, some people will challenge me in saying, well, is this not real, or is this not real? And I don't mean it from a physical experience. I mean it more from what we think things are about in our minds. We will experience the same thing as many people differently. No two people are going to have that same experience. And that's because of our perception and our conditioning and where we come from.
Yeah, it's all the filters that we've built through our lifetime.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So even our fears, even our fears, for example, can be real to us in that moment, but really fabricated because somebody else might not experience it the same way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So somebody can be afraid of spiders and have like a major phobia out of it.
Right.
And me, I don't like spiders, but I'm not going to freak out. Right. So we see the same spider.
Yeah.
But we just have a different history.
Reaction. Yeah. History, which makes us react.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those
I know your
Go ahead, Mark.
I know your practice is confidential, but do you have a story that you would like to share, something the most profound experience you had doing this therapy?
Oh, I've got a whole bunch of them. I like it when there's this lady that comes up to me, and she had been in psychotherapy for like 8 years. She had been abused physically and emotionally and sexually. And when she called me up, she said that, or when we met, she said, I know everything about the situation. I know I'm not responsible. I know everything. He goes, my problem is when I look in the mirror, I don't like the person that I see. Right. So I think we did 4 or 5 sessions. Yeah, 5 sessions. And it was done. And then she kind of wrote back to me saying that, thank you for your non-intrusive therapy, because I didn't ask her to kind of tell me what had happened. So I don't need that.
Yeah.
I take my client where they are and to where they want to go. Right. So, and she said, it's like, now when I look in the mirror, I like the person that I see. I enjoy that person. That was cool.
That's actually pretty huge. I sometimes ask my students or whatever to look in the mirror and tell themselves, I love you. I love you. I love you. And there's some who will stand in front of the mirror and bawl their eyes out and cannot say the words, which to me is sort of heartbreaking that, that they're in that place where they can't get there. So we back it up a little bit so they can find a way to move into that position. But you would be very helpful for that.
and the lady, it's like, all it was is she knew everything about her problem. The only thing that was problematic is it's that feeling that was stuck within her.
Yeah.
That she couldn't name, that she couldn't. And by going through the process of hypnoanalysis, what we did is we just released it.
Nice. I love that. So we've got time for one more. If you got one more good example.
Oh, children, it's like bedwetting.
Yes, yeah.
I had this young guy. He was, I think, young guy. He was 12 and 13. Getting to be an adolescent, and he was having a hard time. Because he didn't want to go sleepovers to his friends and so on. So I just kind of helped him out, and I just was like, okay, let's do this. And what I got him to do is I took a blank sheet of paper and I divided it into 4 squares. And I said, okay, draw your superhero in the first square. In the second square, draw your problem. In the third square, draw your superhero dealing with the problem. And in the fourth square, draw yourself without the problem. And then I got him to kind of tell me the story. So it was like it's like a comic book thing,
Yeah.
So he was telling me the story, and I was using his words and writing it in. Then I got him into hypnosis, and I got him to go through the story, and I told him the story in hypnosis. And that took 1 session only.
Wow. Amazing. Bedwetting can be just a huge problem that really traumatizes children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And parents. And
where were you when I was little?
Yeah. And, the parents will sometimes get mad at the kids and things like that.
And when they get mad, they stress the kid out, and the kid pees even more.
Yeah, it makes it worse for sure. Wow. And what about I just lost my train of thought.
I relate to that.
I just have to go back to the parent of so I was a bedwetter when I was young, and my dad actually, he didn't get mad. He said, Margie, when you go to sleep, this is what I want you to say to yourself. So it was repeating, don't, I will not wet the bed tonight. And just wanted to kudos my dad on that.
Having a more positive approach and rather than, it probably would have been more helpful. I wake up dry and relieved.
I wouldn't take the word relieved in there because you never know.
I was thinking the same thing.
Relieving again.
But I have a comfortable, dry night.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
But he had the foresight actually to not shame you about it, right? And not blame you, which is so beautiful. Yeah,
that's beautiful. You had a good dad.
I did.
You did. Now we're coming up to our last, 6 minutes here. And so I just want to, go around the room and, see who's where and what. And so Pierre, starting with you, what do you think is the most important thing for people to take away from this conversation after today?
I think it's, you've got the power, use it, in a positive way, like focus on what you want. And use your potential to reach it.
Beautiful. I like that a lot. Marg, what about you? What are you taking away from today, or what do you want people to take away?
Just validating and reinforcing the statements of what I'm going towards as opposed to what I don't want. I know I say it to other people. I don't always practice it myself. And thanks for coming.
Yeah, that's sometimes the challenge, isn't it? We get good information, we forget to put it in practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Cheryl, what about you?
Yeah, I think, recognizing that the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not real. And so, piggybacking on what Pierre said is realize the power that you do have to shift a perspective that may not be serving you.
Yeah, because everything is perspective, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, changing that makes all the difference in the world for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and, for me, what I liked was, again, talking about the power of our words, how we speak to ourselves and, the idea of going back, like the feelings, dealing with the feelings and going, okay, when have you felt that way before is how I talk to people, because I don't do hypnotherapy. But it's like, when have you had that feeling before? And then trust the memory that comes. But you talked about, going back into that place of where that feeling kind of started. I think I have that sort of right.
Yes.
Okay, good. I wasn't too sure. I was getting a little, I don't know. But I think that's so important because our feelings tell us kind of where we are. It's a great little meter for what we need. And you talked earlier in the show about responsibility, that we have to take responsibility, and taking responsibility for what we feel is the first step. But that's kind of hard for some people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So much easier to go, it's your fault. You did it to me. It was COVID. COVID did it to me. It's got nothing to do with it.
It's a lot easier to put the blame somewhere else than keeping it. But just to give you an image with regards to what the conscious mind and the subconscious mind can represent, imagine that the subconscious mind is like a boat, right? And it's got all the parts for the boat to go somewhere. And the conscious mind is like the captain, because the subconscious mind needs direction.
Yeah.
Right? So a boat without a captain goes nowhere. Right? And a captain without a boat is not a captain. So they both need each other in order to exist and to move. But the conscious mind will provide the direction needed for the boat to go towards.
Right.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, it's a powerful visual.
It really is, actually. Yeah. And if you're unclear of where you're headed, it's kind of like a ship without a rudder, as well as
exactly. Yeah.
I'm stuck right here where I am. Well, this has been really, really great, Pierre. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show. And Marg and Cheryl, thank you for, always great conversation that we have as we go through this. And I'm really hoping that people will take this show and maybe share it with friends and family, so they can get also a better understanding, but also your website, so they can, and Pierre speaks English. So when you phone or, go to his website, if it's all in, I don't think it's all in French, is it?
Well, it's got French and English.
French and English, good. I know your message is both in French and English. So when you hear that French, don't worry about it. English is coming, and so you can go from there. Pierre, thank you so much. This was really informative and wonderful, and I'm looking forward to having you on my other show. And for all of those who watch either now or later, I hope you take something away that really makes a difference in your life. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us again next week when we'll continue to have wonderful conversations that challenge the status quo. Bye for now. You're listening to the New Thought Media Network.
Bye.
Bye.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.